So you should all be able to see my screen. And my screen is basically, it's an incognito window, but basically it's just a typical course homepage. I've titled this one Gradebook Health Check Course. So we'll just jump right in and kind of like go with where we are right now, and it's the end of the semester. And so the end of the semester means preparing your grades and being able to, at some point, enter those grades into my Pelicipi. And this is a very common thing. We'll have instructors who will post an announcement, and they'll say, hey, grades are ready. Go look at them. And they'll say, view your grades. Contact me if you have any issues. Students go and they check the grades, and they say to the instructor, I don't see my grades. In fact, I don't see grades, quizzes, and other things I may have taken. When that happens, this is a good sign that something's wrong with your gradebook. So we developed a gradebook health check that you can walk through to kind of make sure that you've done some of the necessary setup and managed your gradebook so that when you get to the point of releasing your grades, things are accurate and your students are seeing truly what they've earned. Okay? So where can you find the health check? There are two places I've put the health check for you to access it. The one is every course that utilizes what we call the course setup checklist that has the semester start and the semester end. There is the first one for semester end that says complete a gradebook health check. When you click on the complete a gradebook health check there, it'll take you to our blog post where it gives a summary of what the health check is, and it also allows you to download the PDF version of it so you can actually use it. The other place for the Gradebook Health Check is on the D12 homepage. On the D12 homepage, there is a resources dropdown. The resources dropdown has it listed as Gradebook Health Check. So again, pick which one you want, because not everybody has the widget on their course homepage. Sometimes they've customized their homepage for the course and it's just not there. So you can find it from either one. Okay? So I'm going to go back into my course, and we'll just say I'm going to go through my end of semester checklist. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to do a Gradebook Health Check. When you click the Gradebook Health Check, it takes you to our blog post and gives you kind of a summary of what the health check is. Okay? You can't use it here because it's a PDF that actually has some radio buttons and some math that's done to give you a score. So let's assume that you have now downloaded the gradebook right here. I already have it open, so I'll just go ahead and open the health check, and I'll move it to the right, and I'll pull up our course here, and let's kind of go here now. So the way the health check works is, and I'll even give you the full screen of this so you really can see what it can do. Basically, you get 4 areas. Success, that's the good stuff. Info means you might have some things you can tweak in your gradebook. We have warning, you may experience some inaccuracies, and of course, the bad one, danger. That means instructor, student will have inaccurate grade information. What's nice about this is as you walk through it with your gradebook, you'll have some questions. For example, instructor can see points, scheme symbol, and color. If you can see that in your gradebook setting, you can either answer this yes or no. If you answer one of them, let's close that pop-up. Let's try this again. I selected yes. So if I have my gradebook open and I select yes, it gave me a 4% in the success. Ideally, we want to get to 100%. Okay? Let's see how my gradebook looks. And let's do this health check with my gradebook, okay? Remember, you're the one who submitted an announcement and your student said something's wrong. So let's see what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to grades. And here's my gradebook, okay? So before I actually jump into the gradebook, there are some pretty obvious things that you can see before you even go through the health check. If you see a note, something's probably wrong. So that's sort of a dead giveaway. But if you don't see a note and you're not really sure what's going on, let's go to the health check. So first things first, it says Gradebook Settings. If you've never looked at your settings, you can find it with the gear for settings. And you have 3 tabs that you're going to work through. You're going to work through your personal display, student view, and your calculations. This is where the radio buttons come in. So, can I see point scheme? Let's find out. So, from my perspective as the instructor, I can see points grade, grade scheme symbol, grade scheme color. So, I think I'm good. So, I just toggle yes. Question 2, instructor can see 2 decimal places. Well, let's see. Under the view, you'll see the 2 decimal places. Uh-oh. 0 and 0. That's not what's recommended by D2L. So I would put for mine, instructor can see 2? No. Students can see 2. Well, there's a 0? No. And so what you see is, I've now got 4% success, but I've got 2 warnings and dangers. The reason this becomes important is because if there is some decimal work in your gradebook, you will have students who will challenge your grades and say, wait a minute, I should be rounding up, rounding down, and you're looking at it, and what you see is different from what they see. We want some consistency. And D2L recommends 2 decimal places. Okay? We keep going through this. Hopefully, at some point, you start making corrections. Now, you can go through the whole checklist, get your final score, and then go back through it and make your corrections. That's however you decide to do that. There is the option up above where I can actually, if you say, hey, can you give me a gradebook health check? Or can we sit down together and do it? I would fill out your information. We'd print off your sheet and say, here you go. Because this is something you can do beginning of the semester, middle of the semester when midterm grades are due, and of course, end of the semester when your final grades are due. It's just a really nice thing to kind of keep yourself in check of where you are. Because this can be, in your gradebook, can be flexible. Because you may have to make some setting adjustments throughout the semester, especially, for example, like biology uses points. They go from you have earned none to 1,000. Well, that looks different when you do it that way versus you have 1,000, now you're going to 0. So sometimes you may have to consider some changes along the way. Okay? So gradebook-wise, you can keep going through this. Here's what I like about the checklist. You get some, it gives you the heads up of what you're looking for. So we're going to start in Gradebook Settings. You go a little further down. You now shift over to Manage Grades. So in your gradebook, you're going to go and look at your Manage Grades. Let's go back to Grades. And now we're in Manage Grades. So again, checklist. If I'm using a weighted grade system, the current grade in each category sums to 100%. Well, there's the note. I've done some serious problems with my gradebook. Students are definitely not going to get what they're supposed to get. If you don't know how to make these adjustments, what you'll notice on the following pages, there are some screenshots. The screenshot has a bubble number that's associated with the question. So if you really have no idea how to adjust your points grade, grade scheme, and grade scheme color for what you view, the number 1 there shows you exactly how to do that. And I've done that for all the screenshots. So you can see I address which tab it might be in, and you can see the questions associated with it. Okay? So what we're going to do is see where I'm wrong in my gradebook. Okay, so if you happen to have the gradebook health check open right now, you can kind of do this with me. I'm going to just sort of sit in the Manage Grades area, and we're going to see if anybody can find, and that includes you in the online, you can enter it in chat. So I'm going to show you just this view right here and just kind of scroll down a little bit and tell me if you see anything at the moment that could be wrong with this gradebook.
I can't see the items.
Okay, that's great. If you notice, and this is sometimes it happens, you have an item that's not visible. When you make it not visible here, when a student goes and looks at their grades, Lab 1 is not going to show up. They're going to have no idea what their grade was for Lab 1 or Lab 2. So we always want to make sure that grades are visible. If you look at the health check, there is a question that says, are all items visible? A common mistake that people make is they say, well, I don't want them to see a quiz yet, so I'm going to make it invisible here, thinking that it affects the quiz in the quiz tool, and it doesn't. This is strictly gradebook visibility. Okay? Let's see. How about?
You might want to point to things on. We can't see you as
oh, sorry.
On the unless we change the camera.
All right. Sorry about that. So if we look here, take notice of my category called quizzes, where I have a couple different chapter quizzes there. One thing you'll notice is the first one here, for example, it's associated with a quiz. Well, I just discovered that all of my quizzes were actually given in the quiz tool, therefore they should be associated in the gradebook. Somewhere there was a disconnect, and that happens as well. So the warning, why did I show up above 125%? Well, one thing that people don't look for is where things are indented and where things are working together. So if it's to the far left, it's probably a category. If it's indented underneath it, it's probably an item in that category. If you look down below, this is very common. They may put an item in a category or think they put it in a category, but it's not. And like right here, the video submission, I'm not quite sure if it goes in quizzes or goes somewhere else. But because it's not in a category in a weighted gradebook, it's now added 10% over 100%. That's why the notes are starting to show up there. If I scroll down and take a look, you can see two more errors of the indenting thing that kind of stands out. And that is that the pre-test and post-test, they are supposed to be in that category, and they're not. So in the health check, those are the things that will also kind of stand out are things where they're supposed to be. Let me scroll down a little bit further and see if anybody catches this. And sorry if I'm going a little quick here. There's quizzes, exams, discussions, assignments. Let's see. Something doesn't look right. Exam 1, 2, 3, 4. Exam 1, 2, 3, 4, pre-test, post-test. This is another common error. When somebody copies their course over, they accidentally duplicate things. And in this case, at some point, I added exams twice. So that's wrong. As you can see, these exams are associated with quizzes, but down below, these aren't. So somebody either added it, duplicated when they copied, and now they're showing exam grades for things that doubled that they shouldn't see. I'm going to show one more part of this and see if anybody can catch what's wrong here. There's one more thing for certain that is definitely wrong that is throwing this gradebook off. And it happens to be in the gradebook health check. But just by looking, do you see anything that stands out? It's very hard to catch this, but it can happen, and it has happened pretty often for instructors. Take a look at the last item there. What's the title of that last item? What is it? Even further.
Oh, final faculty grade.
Right above that.
Black and white video assignment book.
Black and white video assignment bonus.
Oh,
It's a bonus. But what's it missing? It's missing the star. Very, very typical. We didn't actually, it says it's bonus, but we didn't actually make it bonus. When that happens, you've now changed the denominator on your students. Okay, so I kind of threw in some errors there. And again, if we go back and look at the health check, and I'm going to go through a couple of these, you'll see these questions stand out. All grade items are in the grade category. No, I made that mistake. Did it sum to 100%? Heck no, it was way off. Consistent naming. I pretty much did quiz 1, exam 1. What happens 15 weeks later and a student goes, I thought I did better on exam 1, but I don't remember what exam 1 is. What was that? Or exam 15, I don't know what it is. And so we look at a good naming convention. Not doing exam 1, quiz 1, but maybe doing exam 1 and what the content or feature was for exam 1. So is it Civil War, Revolutionary War? Is it a particular art theory or something like that? Put a little bit more information so it helps you and helps them recall what that was. All grade items are visible. Nope, they weren't. Each grade item is associated with an assignment. No, it wasn't. Each grade item matched the associated activity. Well, I wouldn't know because I didn't have them all associated, so I'm going to assume no. Bonus items are set as bonus. No. No duplicates. Well, I had duplicates. So let's do a quick shift to the enter grades window because I didn't do that with you. So let's look at enter grades because that's a whole different window. So you enter grades, one dead giveaway that your students aren't seeing what they're supposed to and oftentimes missed is the eyeball. The eyeball is either visible as an eyeball or it's an eyeball that slashed through it. When that happens, your students can't see their grades. Okay? Another thing that people don't know can happen is what's called the hide show columns. It's actually a really good tool to help you sort of focus on a particular category or an item that it lets you isolate by grade. So maybe I only want to look at the lab work. I can now just see the lab work grade items. Okay? But there is a warning that tells you, hey, some of your grade items or categories are not displayed. Click Manage Column to change this. You want to make sure that you see everything when you toggle back and forth between seeing some categories and some items as opposed to the whole thing. Okay? So let's go back to here. Grade is displaying all columns. Well, I just changed that, so no, it's not displaying all columns. Scheme is percentage or appropriate for the course. There is a major issue with an old grade scheme. And a lot of people don't know it, but they still had it, and it's called do not use. Use setting instead, PER for percentage. If you see this in your grade scheme, it doesn't work right. It's going to be messed up because some changes in updates and the use of this scheme no longer is working the way it's supposed to. So if you have that, your gradebook's going to be wrong. Okay? So let me go back to the health check. So yes, I use percentage. The students have a grade in each grade item. Check every column. If you do a treating ungraded items as dropped and your student doesn't do something, you physically have to put a 0 or you've just given them a freebie. If you do, don't use a particular grade item, dump it, get rid of it. Don't have it in your grade book, only have it in there if you're going to actually put a grade to it. So I'm going to say no, I didn't. Students can see subtotal, current grade, or calculated grade. If you remember when I showed you mine, there was an eyeball that slashed through it, so no, they could not see it. Ungraded items treat as 0 or ungraded items drop. Now this is where it can change throughout the semester. You might change this when you want to give the most accurate midterm grade. In that case, you would bounce between normally treating ungraded items as 0, but to submit your midterm, you're going to flip it to treat ungraded items as dropped. So we'll just say ungraded items treated as 0. We'll just say treated as 0. All activities are completed. That's the last. We're almost at the end of the semester, so we're going to say treat as 0, all activities completed. Now that we're done, we go up and we take a look at our final score. Yeah?
What are the D's and the W's?
Oh, good question. She said, what are the D's and the W's? So the letter that you'll see in parentheses is associated with its category of how bad something is or how crucial it is. So if I have a W here, that really means the warning. D is for danger. So it really helps you kind of like look for those particular questions. So here's the thing, with my particular gradebook success, I'm only at 20%. So all those things that I messed up, that's not good. I've got 2 things of info, 5 warning, 5 danger. I need to address these right away, okay? Because something's really going to be off. And you're going to get a lot of phone calls or emails, kids at your door going, my grade is totally messed up. So we want to correct those right now. Ideally, by the end of the semester, all of these go away and you have 100% success. If you reach 100%, you are pretty much right on target with having a perfect gradebook. Okay? You can print this maybe at the beginning of the semester and just kind of have it on your desk. Or you can do it digitally. And there is a clear function here, so you can hit the clear form and start over now that you're reaching the end of the semester, and you can compare your midterm or beginning of the semester versus the end. But ideally, you are walking yourself through this just to see how you're doing. If you don't trust yourself, contact me at ETS, and I can do this with you or for you and kind of give you your health check back to you. And basically, by doing this, I'm giving you recommendations for improving your gradebook. One thing that I would really encourage is before the semester starts, give me a call, give me an email, and say, how can I make my gradebook better? You know, I did okay on my health check, but how can I make it better? And we can give you some recommendations on little things you can do to tweak to make it better. That's about my portion. And Karen's going to kind of kick in and do her portion. But are there any questions from anybody here, live or online?
Can you go through real fast how to get that eyeball to not be fun?
Great question. So you've answered the question of, no, my students can't see. So because your students can't see, let's make it available to them. To do that, you have to be in the Enter Grades tab. And the one way to kind of help you know like where it is, now see, I can't see it. That was my issue. I have to go over here and do the hide show. And let's do everything. And now it'll come back. So the giveaway of how to do this is, because the eyeball is under final calculated grade, that's where you're going to make the adjustment. So there's a drop-down action button located next to final calculated grade, and you'll notice it says grade all. So I'm going to do the drop-down, choose grade all, and from here, really large text says final grades. There's another action button. When you select that, you're going to choose release all. And yes, you know that there's a warning. We do okay. Save and close. And now, Frosty, sample student, Darth Vader, and Master Yoda can all see their grades. If you aren't sure that your gradebook is good and set up the way you want it to be, don't release it yet. Just hang in there, go through the health check, make sure you get as close to 100% as possible, then you can release your grades. You also might, as I mentioned, do that flip-flop between treating ungraded items as 0 or treating ungraded items as dropped. And the easy thing to remember is if you treat them as 0, you're going from 0 to 1,000 or 100, however you're doing your gradebook. And if you treat them as dropped, you're going from 100% down, or you're going from 1,000 points, whatever your max is, down. That's kind of the big difference. Other questions? Online questions? None? So again, you'll see the health check, and it's going to be on your course homepage in the semester end, or the D2L homepage right after login, the drop-down resources, Gradebook health check. Okay? All right.
Great. Thank you.
And I think your window is up and ready to go.
Yeah, just bring this up.
Sorry, and I have to excuse myself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Karen Sorensen. I'm an instructional designer. Just hit my 1-year anniversary here at Pellissippi. And I work for PACE, the the Teaching and Learning Center. But I'm housed here in the ETS office at Hardin Valley. And so if you need my assistance, that's where you'll be able to find me. I'm today going to, let's see, show you, share this. So topic of my presentation is on using data to improve student engagement. And data, I know that really engagement is about making connections with our students, having them connect with the content. But so this is really sort of a misnomer, but data can inform us on what content is really engaging to the students. So that's what we're going to look at. Here are the outcomes of my presentation to help you locate the statistics tool in Brightspace, and many of you probably know how to find that. But then we're going to also discuss what makes, we're going to look at video in particular. And although the statistics tool does cover more than just more than video, it covers anything that's in the content area of Brightspace. And then we're going to look at a course and look at its video engagement. And then we're going to talk about plans for improvement. So basically, I'm going to go to the Brightspace tool, but I want to show you exactly where you find the statistics tool if you don't know. So here let's log into my sandbox. You know, I'm logged into Brightspace. I go to my sandbox course, and on the announcement page, if you embed a video on the announcements or anything that you put on announcements, the statistics will not be measured. It's got to be in content. So you want to go to content, and then you have to have table of contents highlighted, and then under related tools, view reports. That's the statistics tool. And you'll be able to view statistics on all of the items that are embedded in content. Not linked to, but actually embedded in the content. And because this is my sandbox, it only has the one user. But it will also it'll tell you the average time that somebody spent on that content item. And then you can even click into the user and see which users, if you had, all of your students in here, you would see which students actually visited that content and how much total time they spent, and how many times they visited. So any questions so far on finding that statistics tool, the basics of finding it and what it provides? Any questions online? Yeah, and
So if my students have access to content through a link and an announcement, still will record this, right?
If it's a link to content, yes, good question. That's actually how you would, if you want to put a video on your announcements or anything on your announcements, you would want to link to, put it in content and then link to it from your announcement instead of putting it in your announcement directly. So on my course here, that's what we did. So it looks pretty to have the video right there, but it's not going to measure anything, anytime student it's not going to measure on the statistics tool if it's embedded there. But this is the recommended way that it's linked to directly from then it will give me, because this is linking to my content.
The way if you want to track content that is in your announcement, you first need to upload it in content. So first you'd have to go to the content page and do upload, create video or audio, whatever it is that you want to put in your announcement. You first need to put in content. So for example, we put this MLA essay formatting video into content first, and we do that just by putting the URL in here and then saving it, and that creates a topic page with my video. And so if I go back to the table of contents, I've put that in this put another instance of that. That's the content I just added right here, MLA essay formatting. I should probably change the title so you know exactly which one I'm talking about, and I can just do that right here. I'll just say example, not to be mistaken with all the other times I've embedded it just to prepare for this workshop. But so now I have that in my content, and I go back to the announcements page, go back to my course homepage, and forget about these previous announcements. Say I want to create a new announcement, and I want to embed that video or link to that video in my content. I would create the text in my announcement. I would insert a quick link, and then I would go to content. So and then go to video embedding. So any embedded video that I have created in content, I can link to from the announcements. I can do other things besides video, any other embedded content I can link to from my announcements. So here's the example MLA essay formatting. And that's how, and then I publish that, and I go back to my course homepage, and there's my announcement with a link to my video that is in my content page. So now when students watch this video, it will be tracked in statistics.
Now, if I just want to review the basics on adding content, so you make sure that you can gather those statistics. So if you want to upload, you want to put a file here, you would add a file from one of these sources, and then it would upload to content, and it would be tracked. But if you added a link, you have the choice of opening it as an external resource. You don't want to do that. Anytime you leave Brightspace, or the student leaves Brightspace, then it's not being tracked in the statistics tool. So you can add a link and it will then embed right into your course.
So here's an example of linking to a URL, but keeping it in content. Say I wanted to link to the PACE website. I put in the URL, but I would not check this box because as soon as it says right underneath it, user progress is not tracked for external resources. So don't check that. Create. And now a topic page has been created within Brightspace that is the PACE website. One note about doing this, though, is that because Brightspace is a secure site and the URL starts with HTTPS, any links in this site that link to HTTP websites are not going to link unless I hold down the control key. So I can link to the About PACE web page, no problem, because PACE is on a secure HTTPS website. But if I were to link to, say, the distance learning conference page, links to the page, no problem. But the registration page acts like a broken link because it is linking to a site that is HTTP. Even the Pellissippi website homepage is HTTP, and if I try to link to it, it won't open with just a click. To open this, I need to hold down my control key and then click the link, and then the page opens, but it opens as a separate tab. So let me move my, show you this. So it actually opened here next to my current tab. And so you'll have to inform your students about that if you've embedded web pages into your content pages, you want them to know that if a link doesn't work, they should try holding down the control key when they click. So control, click, and then it will open as a new tab next to their current page.
You upload or create, you use these to upload a file, upload audio and video. I want to do video too. It's just put your URL here. And so like if you have a YouTube video, so you actually can take this URL, the share video, the share link. You can copy this one or the one from the URL bar and just paste it into add audio or video. You get a preview and then you save it, and now it's embedded in your content, and that will track statistics as opposed to linking out to YouTube. If you link out to YouTube, it will not copy your statistics. Okay, so And if you're going to add assignments or quizzes, it's ideal if you add them to your content. That way, not only in organizationally, will a student be able to know exactly what needs to be done. So if they have all of their content, their homework and their assignments and their quizzes all in content, they can just go through the table of contents and know that they aren't missing anything. But it also will track the statistics. So like if you have a discussion, although you get separate statistics in discussion and quizzes, but I think it's nice if you add existing activities like assignments, discussions, and quizzes to the content area. And then you can get all those stats in the stats tool. What you won't get, though, with those existing assignments is if a student goes in through quizzes or through assignments, it won't track that. So again, it's all about being in content and not leaving Brightspace. If the student is taken away from Brightspace, we won't get any tracking in the stats tool. Any questions? Okay.
I actually have one.
Okay, great.
I can check it out on my finger. So I have documents with videos in them.
Okay.
And they're posted in content. So when they click on them, they come up and they can hit the links. So as soon as they hit those links to the videos that are outside, does that shut down the tracking on that document that contains the links?
It will show them there for just a second because it'll say, okay, they were on that page, but then as soon as they leave, they are gone.
When they close the video, they're right back on that page.
Is the video actually in the content page? Like, is it?
No, it's not. It's
No.
not in contents in the document.
And in the document in content, it links away from Brightspace. Yeah, no, it opens, that stops tracking them. You know, what it will do, though, is because that page is still open, it will track that they are still on that page.
Okay, that's what I wondered. Yeah.
But it doesn't, it's not very accurate because you don't know, did they wander off? You know, they just sort of have that, it's just measuring that that page is open. Some recent research on videos is that I think a lot of people know is that shorter videos are more engaging. 6 minutes is really the limit. So if you're going to make a longer video, you want to chunk it out into 6-minute chunks or chapters. And if a instructor's face is on the video, it's supposed to be more engaging. So sometimes a picture in a picture or interspersing a picture of a video with the instructor in between, like maybe the screen capture is more engaging. The con style types of videos where there's actually interactivity going on with the instructor, maybe is using something like this document camera and drawing or writing on a PowerPoint is more engaging, and that an instructor speaking fairly fast and with enthusiasm is also more engaging. So because you can pause a video and repeat it, you know, you don't need to go slow. And so those are some highlights of this recent research on engaging videos. And so we can then use our statistics tool to see what types of videos are engaging. And Dr. This is Royce's. Dr. Roxana Beach has approved my using her course to show you the stats tool in her biology class. And I won't, so So again, to get to that statistics tool, you go to content and you have to be on the table of contents. That has to be highlighted because the tool, if I'm in another module, the tool doesn't show. So you have to be on table of contents and go related tools, view reports, and then you can see she has a lot of different content, documents, links, and then her videos. The videos show as they look like links, even if they're embedded. So like you can see here, this video of insulin function, nobody has watched. And I even went and I looked back to make sure it was embedded, and it is. But students must not be feeling like that was an important video for them to watch. But you'll see that like these crash course videos, and I know from her telling me that they are very popular with students. And they're short videos, and it looks like people have watched them all the way through. I can't go into I don't want to show on a recording student information, so I'm not going to drill down. But again, you could click this number and you could see exactly which students have watched and for how long. And so that just gives us a good idea of some of our content. What content is really valuable? What are students spending their time studying in our content? Royce made the suggestion, and I think it's really good, is to put the length of your video in the title. So if we knew crash course number 33, endocrine system introduction, was 5 minutes long, that would give us a good idea, since this is the average, it would give us a good quick glimpse without having to go back into content to see how long was that video and how much time, average time should I hope for. So, but on this, if we go back to the content area, but you see here how much different, like this is a Word document, this is a PowerPoint. You can, the stats tool shows you for each item how long. And like, I'm sure she spent a lot of time on this snow day lecture, but students didn't spend the time, it was maybe something, an effort that she could have saved her work on. And, they were probably all not expecting to do any work. So if we go, but Dr. Beach is great about using the stats tool and always working on making upgrades to her course. And so this is a great way to get information from students on what has worked and what she needs to redesign or rethink. So like, let's go back. What module was that in? The endocrine system. So here's her snow day lecture. Oh, and look, this one is not embedded. So actually maybe they did. See how it left the content area. So maybe it wasn't a waste so we got that 8 seconds that students watched it, but that's because they were linking away from the content. So I'm glad to see that. So see how it's an external resource. I don't know why my Pellissippi State website example didn't work, but you get this external resource instead of the page seeing it embedded. So let's go to her, some of her other videos in this endocrine we saw that the insulin video was not. See, it is embedded, so you're still in Brightspace, and it's embedded here, but students didn't really watch. They didn't watch this one. So let's see, some of those crash course videos, though, they're embedded, and this one is 11 minutes long,
Hormones.
and it was the number 33. So I think she says these are very popular,
They
these
are.
these
Oh, yeah.
crash
I see
courses.
But usually it just scared me. I was looking at my screen and it just
Suddenly he's yelling, "Everybody online, wake up!" So she knows that from the data that they're popular, and so she uses them. So that's and then so we've talked about what makes an engaging video, making yourself present in the content, keeping them short, using some kind of interaction and like some kind of drawing on your PowerPoints, you know, when you're doing a screen capture, or using the document tool when you're getting a recording, using maybe your tablet to make a video. She does that too. And speaking fairly fast and with enthusiasm. And this, then I wanted to finish with, if you would like to work on your course or your course content, this summer, Royce and I are going to have this course design cohort, and we're going to have multiple ones depending on who shows interest. But if you sign up, we try and have groups of less than 4 people, and we're going to have coffee, tea, and snacks. And but it's a chance for faculty to talk with faculty about what works in their class and what's not working. And then Royce and I will be there to facilitate. And we did it this spring, and it was such a success. And the faculty, we had 2 faculty members participate, and they have just good things to say about it. And I think we all learned a lot from one another. And what really excites me is to see faculty share their ideas, even in unrelated fields. They have ideas about, you know, what is engaging and what they've tried and maybe what didn't work. And so I encourage you, if you are working on developing a course or redesigning a course, to consider joining. And the URL is just it's just an interest form to sign up, and then we'll try and figure out what times work for people and what subject matters kind of would group together, maybe sciences, and but you don't have to be in the exact same course, developing the same course. This term we had a communications instructor and an ESL instructor, and they really had a lot to share, even though they're not developing the same course. So it's tinyurl.com/CD for course development, course design, -cohort. So any questions online or in person? Well, I hope this was valuable, and you'll use that stats tool to help inform you. And please do, even if you don't join the cohort, please know that I'm a resource, and I think everybody knows Royce is a resource. I'm fairly new to the college, so people aren't always aware that I'm available. I have a strong background in universal design, so we can talk about that, and instructional design and accessibility. So thank you all for coming, both online and in person.
Thank you.